Good evening, everybody, and welcome to part two of tonight's Club Grant Scheme webinar. In part two of tonight's webinar, we are going to be going through the Ulster Badminton Club Support Grant, and I'm joined by Ryan Prentice and Andrew Stewart from Ulster Badminton, who are going to discuss that grant now in more detail. Once again, tonight's webinar is being recorded and will be available to all clubs after, and I know both of the guys will be available for any questions or queries that are around that. So Ryan, I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Okay, Vic, thanks very much. Thanks to yourself and to Lauren as well for helping to set this up, and hopefully it proves beneficial for a few clubs. Vic said Andy is on the call as well, so we will be going through this. If there's any questions, then there's the Q&A facility through the platform, so please make use of it and post any questions that you may have. Obviously, if this is going out recorded, then please get in touch with us, and you should have our emails and phone numbers. If not, they're available through the Ulster Badminton website. And again, we're here to help as many clubs as possible through this process if it's something that that you're interested in being able to do. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through the information that we've got for tonight. So, Vic said we've Ulster Badminton, we have launched our club support grant scheme that we hope will again make things a little bit easier for clubs that are obviously trying to start back that have been impacted through COVID, and again we will hopefully be able to give information a little bit later on in this presentation about some other areas of support as well that is available to clubs. So tonight we're just going to look at three areas. So we're going to look at our own grant scheme information that hopefully you all have received already through emails going out to club secretaries. I think they went out over a week ago, and then also stuff that is on the Ulster Badminton website as well. So again, hopefully you have received the information, you've had a look at the information, and again, if there's questions around that, if I don't answer them through this presentation tonight, then please make sure that that you get in touch with us. We'll touch very briefly on some other areas of support that are out there here in Northern Ireland that the clubs can avail of, and then we'll also touch on some future funding that's coming up that will be a little bit more in line with some of the areas that they talked about earlier on with the resilience funding that's been made available through Sport Ireland. So, about our own initial scheme, just an overview of it at the minute. Initial funding that is available per club is £500, and again, the reason why I say initial will hopefully become clear a little bit later on. There is a deadline of Friday the 18th of December on that on the application. Again, we're looking at the programme to be used to help clubs recover and to get back on court, obviously with the impact through COVID, and to try and maybe ease some of the pressures that the clubs might be facing. And the application is through a club development plan, which may seem a slightly odd process, but it is a process that through ourselves and Sport Northern Ireland that we're keen to go down, as we believe that it will also allow us to look at clubs' future funding and allow us that if we're able to offer more than £500 to a club, then we can use the club development plan to do that based on the information that the clubs have provided us with. So just going to go through the plan, or I suppose a sample of what a plan might look like that has been sent out, and again, happy to take any questions on this. Again, it's nothing, we're trying to make this process as straightforward as possible, and again, we're not looking to say overly complicated, but obviously with funding there are certain things that we do need to adhere to. So some basic information from the club to start with. Again, the name, who the lead contact is on this, whether that's maybe a secretary or a chairperson whoever that might be. Some information then around how we get in touch with them, contact number, contact email address. Some information on the club, so looking at the members that were affiliated through the 2019-2020 season, and then what maybe estimated numbers for the 20-21 season. We are all aware that club membership has the potential to be affected with what has gone on since March with COVID. So we're obviously looking for that information from club to see how great that effect might be. We hope that we can work with clubs to limit that, but again, it's important that we can have that information to help with our planning process. Again, some information around what you believe clubs' strengths and areas of improvement are. There's a table there that we'll ask clubs just to jot a few ideas down there of where the club they are and what their strengths are, and again where they would like to improve going forward. And as I say, this plan might be a 2-year plan, it might be a 3-year plan, but again, it's for us that we can try and support areas with the club through additional funding to try and help move the club forward as to where they want to go. Again, a little bit in the bottom there about what club aims we're going to be over the next 2-3 year period, whatever that might be. And then we've got a bit of an example there around what some of the things might be. So again, it might be around increasing some juvenile membership, looking at then how we're going to do that, whether it's maybe a program through local schools, who'll take the lead on the project. So you may have a coordinator at your club, it may be a head coach, little around time scales when you're hoping this might be delivered, some costs there, so whether it's a facility hire cost, cost for coaching, and then, as I say, an estimated time of when that would be completed. Again, those can be small things, those can be larger things, but again, it's what you believe is important to your club. And again, whenever it comes to the cost side of that, that's where we believe that we can hopefully try and help. As I say, whether it's through this pot of money that we have available to clubs to avail of, or whether it's some other funding that we have, we will hopefully be able to help in that way. And that's, I suppose, the reason why we're looking at a club development plan, because although we initially want to make the £500 available to the clubs for the recovery of COVID, we also want to be looking a little bit further down the road to see where else we can help clubs, and if there's programs and things like that they have in mind, then we can try and support them with that. And just another example, looking at if you're potentially looking at some adult members, then again, some of the things that might go into the costs of that. There's probably no two clubs will do one of these things the same way. So again, it's something that's personal to the club, and we'll look to work with the clubs individually on this to see where we can lend our support to that. So the last coming towards the last bit of the form, then we'll touch a little bit more around the actual initial £500 grant. So all we're looking at this stage of it is for the club to outline where this money would be spent. So again, as will have been included in the supporting letter that went out with with this plan over email to the clubs, things like some equipment, whether it's shuttles, that need to be bought in place for the club to start back, whether it's some PPE or COVID related equipment that needs to be bought by the club to help make the club as safe as possible for everybody come back in, whether it's maybe some court hire that needs to be taken on in addition to what the club is already doing to help with the impact of reduced numbers on sessions. All these things are going to be eligible costs, and as I say, those are outlined in the supporting letter that will have gone out. We essentially want to, with this grant, to take pressure off a club at the very start, where you may be trying to get back up and running, and membership fees may not be in yet, and so there's potentially some things like the shuttles that maybe need to be bought to get up and running. There might be some bills that need to be paid, whether it's courts or something else. And we want, hopefully, this grant to be able to be used for that. That will then help clubs, say, worry about getting all their members back and getting back on court in as safe a way as possible. That's probably the best way that I can try and explain that £500 is say it's anything that really makes your life easier at this minute to get back on the court. That again will keep everybody safe and allow members to return to the sport. We will require receipts, so again it will be important that if you're using it for court hire, that then we will look for a receipt or an invoice for that court hire. And likewise, if you're purchasing equipment, then we will look for a receipt for that. Again, it's money that is been granted to us by Sport Northern Ireland, so we've got to adhere to their reporting procedures around that. So again, there's something worth keeping in mind that whenever you are claiming for this, that they obviously keeping receipts and things like that for that. Some additional funding that you may already be aware of, but thought it important to mention. Through Sport Northern Ireland, through the Northern Ireland Sports Forum, there is other avenues for clubs to avail of support. And certainly, if you haven't visited these sites yet, then it's well worth a look. Myself and Andy will be available to help if you're looking at any of these opportunities to help us with it. So have a look if there's something there that you feel would be of interest to the club. Then again, just please make sure you get in touch with us. Okay, next one then, it's just to make you aware of, I suppose, where we're at with things here in Northern Ireland with the funding. So Fake obviously alluded earlier to the support that Badminton Ireland have received from Sport Ireland. The Sport Northern Ireland, as of the last couple of weeks, have announced that there's going to be 25 million available from the executive for sport. So it was announced in two. I suppose in two instalments, to call it that. Initially there was 15 announced, and then this information came out last week, maybe even at the beginning of this week, that there was an additional 10 million being added to that. So there's going to be 25 million available for sport, and we anticipate that the process is going to open in December 2020. So we're obviously not very far away from that. And again, we're waiting to see what that process looks like, whether it's going to be an application similar to what Badminton Ireland have done, where the application goes in by the governing body, or whether it's an application that clubs can access directly. Once we know that, we will obviously make everybody aware of that. And again, if it's information that clubs, if it's a club application directly, then we can support clubs with it. If it's an application going through the governing body, then likewise we will be in touch with all the clubs to see how we can obviously include them as part of the process. At this stage, we are waiting on that information, so it's very much a case of waiting to see when that comes out, what it looks like, and what we can apply for, and then we go down that route. It is likely to cross into the next financial year, so again, post March 21. But again, things will hopefully become clearer. So it is something worthwhile, or something worth thinking about for clubs that are obviously maybe starting back up in January and thinking about planning through to maybe May, June time, that there's an opportunity for additional funding potentially from this scheme for that. And then I suppose the last side of that is around the making sure that if it's going to be a club application, which again could be the process, you making sure that as a club you have the relevant documents and policies in place that ensure that you're actually able to apply. So things like if a constitution, potentially a development plan, maybe policies, if you're looking at support around your junior club, safeguarding policies, making sure that you have your safeguarding officer in place. These sorts of things that Fake alluded to earlier on through his part of this presentation, are going to be really important that to ensure that you actually are able to apply for this funding. So again, if you're concerned about any of those, if there's things that you need help with to try and get them into place, then please get in touch. To say myself and Andy are here to help on that. But it's as I say, we may only be a couple of weeks away from some of that funding becoming available, and so it would be maybe a useful time to try and get the likes of constitutions haven't been updated, then potentially getting them updated, or getting the other relevant policies in place that ensure that you don't miss out through maybe a piece of paperwork that hasn't been completed. So again, probably can't stress that one enough. We're here to help with that, and we can certainly make your life a lot easier on that front. So if that's something that that you're keen to chat about, then again, please get in touch with us. And then that is a very quick run through of where we're currently at, and if there's any questions that I haven't covered, then please, or even further clarity on anything that I have covered, then please fire them through.
Thanks a million for that, Ryan. We'll just hang on a minute or two and see if any questions come in there. There has been one question in relation to affiliation, which I will take. Sorry, let me just get it here. So, what is happening with the affiliation? Are they extending this for the upcoming year? So there will be a communication in relation to all affiliations over the course of the next week. And sorry, that will be communicated to all clubs in terms of affiliation over the next week. There was a meeting around the affiliations at the weekend, so we're just waiting for word back. Question there for you, Ryan. So what was the time frame that these grants need to be completed by?
So our initial club grant is going to be Friday the 18th of December. So that for that initial £500. The other grants that I mentioned at the very end will hopefully be announced by Sport Northern Ireland in the beginning of December. So again, that will have its own time frame, but as I say, the initial one that I spoke about earlier on was the 18th of December.
I suppose just on behalf of Badminton Ireland, I'd like to thank Ryan and Andrew for your time this evening, and for joining up with us to present on the Ulster Club Support Grant. Very informative session, and an excellent opportunity for all clubs in Ulster to avail of some funding at this during these challenging times. I think that looks like all the questions we have, so we might cap it at that for this evening.
No problem. Thank you very much.